Hi, I'm Olivia, and Mila's going to be joining us in literally a second, I think, here. And this is my recommendations channel. At this point, I'm still just recommending books. Hello, Mila. I'm still recommending books at this point. I have my editing computer over there in the corner, and I have my sewing machine right here next to me. So I'm going to be branching out to something eventually, as soon as I, get my courage up. Also, I'm not sure why the speakers I've got hooked up to my editing computer aren't working. I popped the first movie I'm probably going to recommend, which is Eddie and the Cruisers, in there, and there's Michael Prey lip syncing to nothing. So I'm like, okay, let's try this again. So I'm going to wrestle with that some more. I might, if I get my courage up, start my sewing machine tonight. We'll see how that goes. If a couple weeks after this comes up, there's a video of me threading my sewing machine, then yes, I was able to get my courage up to film it. So onward to Maria Bamford's Sure I'll Join Your Cult, a memoir of mental illness and the quest to belong anywhere. As it turns out, apparently funny books about mental illness are turning out to be kind of my thing. In the interest of full disclosure, I do have depression and probably a bit of anxiety. It's funny. I was telling one of my coworkers that when I first thought about that I might have anxiety, it made me really anxious, and I'm like, yeah. So there's that. I've also been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive personality disorder, though actually what the original psychiatrist said was I have obsessive compulsive personality structure. So I don't know if it's quite to the cluster B, axis B, whatever the thing is. I don't know if it's quite that bad, but it apparently can turn into OCD if I'm not careful. So there's that. I'm certainly neurodivergent, if not fully on the spectrum. And that's also kind of, I'm filming this on Easter Sunday, 2025, and I was talking to one of my coworkers about Passover, and she didn't know anything about the timing of Passover and everything else, and I was like, boom, 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 because when I was a kid, religion was one of my special interests. I went through a Greek mythology phase, and I went through an Egyptian mythology phase, and then I also went through a Bible phase and a Judaism phase and a Catholicism phase and all those other like Judeo-Christian sorts of religions. Islam to some extent too. Like I know which way I would, if I were to convert to Islam, I know which way I'd have to kneel in my house to pray because I looked it up. So there's that too. But anyhow, so I'm definitely somewhere, I had a special interest when I was a kid, and it was religion. So a lot of the material in this book hits home, both in the I've had to wrestle with these mental health problems, and I've been wondering if there's a connection between mental health issues and neurodivergence. I wonder, I would like to know what percentage of people who are neurodivergent have mental health problems, and what percentage of people with mental health problems are neurodivergent. Those are actually two different questions, of course. Because I wonder if they track in some way, because almost everybody I know who has some kind of mental health problems, I vibe with them in a way that may indicate that they're some flavor of neurodivergent as well. So the subtitle, A Memoir of Mental Illness and the Quest to Belong Anywhere, also hit home with me. The quest to belong is a big part of my own history, largely because of the neurodivergence part, with apologies to Dr. Grande, whom I will cover someday if I ever get big enough that I will feel like I'm not trying to use them as a stepping stone to my own success. I also suspect my mom was neurodivergent. There are many things I've observed about social groups my mom totally didn't understand. Like she seemed to think that people would like me better than they liked her because she thought I was prettier than she'd been. And some of the very popular girls in my youth were, okay looking, but they weren't gorgeous. They weren't model beautiful or anything. So, she also, one of my problems with being a baby ace was that my mom didn't seem to understand, because I think my mom was also ace. I don't think my mom understood just how motivated by hormones allosexuals are. We had problems with that too. Um, um, my mom had a fan club. My mom, speaking of, my mom thinking that she wasn't popular, she had a fan club. I mean, really. I spoke with a person who has her former job, who went into that field because of my mom. No one will ever say that about me. Nobody will ever say, hey, you know what? Because of you, that's never going to happen. I'm happy with my friends, but I wouldn't mind having a few more. Though I don't think I could cope with having the kind of fan club my mom had. I was known as her daughter way more than my actual name until I got married. Then I was Thomas's wife. The less said about that, the better. So back to the book. In this book, Bamford describes her mental health history in 4 12-step programs and 3 hospitalizations. We also follow her career path from aimlessness to fame as a stand-up comedian and star of her own television show. I admit I've never seen either. I'm not really a comedy fan or a television watcher, though, okay, I have discovered one comedian that I really like, but that's because he does the crowd work thing. I like the way he interacts with the fans, but sitting around watching somebody. I like to watch YouTubes talking about stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to name drop any more people, but trust me, I watch a lot of commentary channels. So there's that, but stand-up comedy never really vibed with me, and I just don't watch TV anymore, really. If Bamford started a YouTube comedy channel, though, I'd be there. So we start with Bamford's family of origin, which she considers to be sort of a cult. Her mom, who had loads of charisma, was the leader of the cult of her family. Her father was the comedian. Her sister was the perfect golden child, and Bamford was sort of the afterthought. She credits her attempts to be heard in her family of origin with her ability to credits her attempts to be heard in her family of origin with her ability to deliver a tight stand-up performance. When everybody else is buying her attention, you gotta be punchy, you gotta be fast. We talk about influences on Bamford that came from her mother, her eating disorder, which came from her mom's desire to be thin. I'm hearing you on FM there. I've never quite devolved into an eating disorder, but as near as I can tell, it's because my dopamine receptors work differently than those who developed them. Maria also took Suzuki violin. I hope I got the right next page, and continued playing violin for years afterwards. She looks on the end of her time as a violinist as a breakup from bad romance. She tried Dale Carnegie next. I've actually sort of tried this as well. We both followed the steps of asking open-ended questions, using the person's name, giving compliments, etc., and both hit the same barrier. No one ever returned the curiosity, so the conversation would die there. As I wrote this, I'm like, no, I'm having flashbacks. Great. Bamford talks about her 12-step groups. Now, of course, the word anonymous is right there in the name, so she knows she shouldn't be coming out as a member of these groups. But lightning strikes from above are risks she's willing to take. And she also marks these in the text as a nod to the For Dummies book series. Bamford starts out in Overeaters Anonymous, then moves on to Debtors Anonymous, which she kind of credits for getting her to actually get out of her current situation and move on with her life and her career. Maybe I should join Debtors Anonymous. I'm not so badly in debt. I mean, okay, when I wrote this, I had less debt than I do now because I took my car and got a lot of stuff I'd been deferring done. So I owe quite a bit for that because I didn't have the cash money for it because I was deferring a lot of stuff. I used to have a mechanic I really loved, and they closed during COVID. And it's taken me this long to find a mechanic that I think might work out. Let's see how it goes. So there's that. And she then went on to Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, and later she and her husband would join Recovering Couples Anonymous. What follows is the spoiler warning for just a brief mention of the death of a beloved pet. Her declining mental health led to the death of her dog, which in a way led to her 3 hospitalizations. Her first hospital was one that Bamford had visited for Debtors Anonymous meetings, which had a lovely country club-like setting. The website listed all sorts of activities, and when she got there, it turned out they don't do those things anymore. Now, another, little tangent here. I have a family member who went to, I think it's Timberline Knolls. That's the place that Demi Lovato went to for her, what's the word? Detox. Not detox, the other thing. Anyway, I'm sure it'll come to me. but it also was a beautiful place with a country club like setting, but they did have all the advertised activities. It was a beautiful, I mean, really, it was a fantastic place. Rehab, that's what I'm looking for. Demi Lovato went there for rehab, and I think that's the same place. It's in the same general area, and the pictures look like the same place. So after what happened was, when Bamford went to this hospital, she picked it out because it was such a beautiful place and had all these fantastic activities listed. Turns out they don't take her insurance. So she paid cash to stay there. And of course, it turned out that they don't do all the things they were supposed to do. It was just basically, some medication and like, I think they had like 12-step groups in the basement. It wasn't very much. And the doctor prescribed her medication, I think it was Lamictal, Lamotrigine, and she had debilitating side effects, which led directly from her first hospitalization to her second hospitalization. She after that she had one more mental. I promised myself I wouldn't pick at my hair today. She had one more hospitalization after that, and at press time that was it. There's just 3 hospitalizations. She also talks about her career from her time as a Star Trek character. I guess Paramount had a theme park at one point in California, and she played one of the Star Trek characters. She became a receptionist at Nickelodeon, where she was fired, and then on to doing voice work for Cat Dog, which was in the same place that she'd just been fired from. She then did commercials for Target and had doubts about the ethics of working for Target. Then she had her stand-up career, and then she goes into her television series Lady Dynamite, which ran for 2 seasons and really took it out of her. She actually talks about the accommodations she required in order to make it work. And, after that she's like, I don't think there's going to be any more TV in my life. The book ends with a chapter on suicide prevention, in which Bamford exhorts her readers to take whatever help they can. Ideally, you call 911, you get taken to a hospital, they take care of you, they help you, you get back on your feet, you move on with your life. She said that, because of the way our culture works, this may not be safe for all people. So she recommends some other things you could do, such as calling Domino's, order a pizza, ask them if they feel like life's worth living. Going to Burger King and taking a poll of drive-through customers to see if they feel like life is worth living, or calling the concierge at the Ritz-Carlton Orlando. She gives the phone number in the book to see if they can help you, with your existential crisis. The final part is kind of a parody 12-step program about her problems with parking illegally. The steps are real though, so I guess if you want to make a do-it-yourself 12-step program, you've got the raw material right here in the book with examples. Each chapter ends with a recipe of some sort. Like the first recipe involves being friendly. I don't think it's the first recipe. One of the early recipes involves being friendly with baristas, and being like, "Oh, I'll pay you back," and that they will give you the free coffee, and and then after months forgetting to pay, then becoming consumed with guilt, and finally PayPaling the money to the owner of the coffee shop, and then never going back to the coffee shop again. So. Most aren't actually recipes. There's one where mental hospital graham crackers, which is basically while you're in the mental hospital, you go to the nurse's station asking for graham crackers. Pretty easy. But one of my favorites is her husband Scott has a recipe for a love festival, which involves lying on the floor and having the one you love sit on your chest while you give them belly rubs. This can be, your spouse, your dog. And while you give the belly rub, you say, "It's a love festival. And the only ticket is a smile."